today we have yet another Craftsman tiller. This one, I know as much as you do, to be honest. It came with a package of tillers. Can't really see in there. Let me see if I can find a light. We'll look at that later. I can smell it though. That's strong. Anyway, and I know nothing about it except for it's suffering the common problems of a whole lot of junk and stuck in the tines, which is concerning because the transmission might be bad. It is in neutral though, and the tines spin freely. When I put it to till, it seems like it's okay, but I've been burned before, so I'm not going to be too I'm not going to focus too much on that, because at least hopefully this is a good engine. And if not, we do have a good engine right there that we can do a little swapping. In fact, I think it even says the exact same thing, because it was off of another tiller, just not this style. The cables seem free. I haven't checked the throttle cable though. Oh wow, throttle is free too. Okay, well that's a start. This engine is probably new enough where it doesn't have a points and condenser, so I'm not going to worry too much about spark. I don't think that's a problem. You know, knock on wood. Unless it has points and condenser, you're really not looking at a spark problem in general. There always can be, but in general, especially smelling that fuel, we're probably looking at a fuel problem. And at the very least, from the looks of a belt replacement too. I think what we're going to do is I'm going to take an air compressor, I'm going to blow through here. I'm going to try to put the engine at top dead center real quick. I'm going to look at the plug, put a little fuel down there. The reason I'm going to put it top dead center is I'm going to blow through there. I don't want any of the junk to go in the cylinder. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So the engine is roughly at top dead center. The exhaust valve might be open a bit. But I did see a couple things. This is just marble. There's a whole lot of carbon in there. The good part about this style engine is you can look through the plug hole and you can see if any if the valves aren't shutting or anything, or closing or opening, I should say. So now that we've done that, feel pretty confident that there's nothing in there. Let's put the plug back in. It's the wrong style of plug. Well, I guess technically it's not, but it's one that I wouldn't like to use. Let's put a new Champion in there. RJ19LM. Yeah, I don't want it mixing with the fuel or the oil too much. So with putting marble in there, it is going to be a little Cheech and Chongy in the garage, but that's fine. Who doesn't like a little good smoking every now and then? I don't know why, but these covers for these 5 horsepower really like to go for walks. It seems like that's a very common occurrence, at least for me. Luckily I have a few, but it's annoying either way. That was 2-cycle fuel. The choke is open. It definitely has compression. Let's try that again, except let's do a little bit of this. Make it a little easier on myself. Had to give it a little bit of a try for the fuel, but it's probably nasty. So what do we do next? We're gonna take this off and take off the carb and give it a good cleaning. When taking off the air filter plate, it wasn't even tight. I was able to take it off with my fingers. It usually tells me that someone, oops, kind of in the way there, was already in here and knows something that we don't know. So let's remember it was on the first hole, which is kind of a bummer. Okay, that's boring. So I'm going to take this and take off the screw here, there's one on top, one in the back, and there's another one right there. Should be 5 total, so let me do that. Finally, let's take this off. Now let's take this off first. Every single one of these is just a little bit different. All annoying. It's the gasket on the bottom that's getting me. Ah, finally. Okay. What we're doing now is we want access to the 3/8 that connects the carb to the looks like we'll have to get that out. That connects the carb to the intake. A little spacer. It's gonna be fun. Then we have a 5/16. This likes to go for a walk too, just like that cover. Take that off and put it to the side. Okay, now we have full access to the 2 3/8, one on top, one on the bottom. I'm gonna get those loosened up. Just realize you probably can't see. There's one right there, one right there. So this is the boring parts. I don't usually show it. I'm not gonna show all of it either. But this is a 3/8. We're going to ideally you'd want to get one that's curved. I like to tighten it a little beforehand just to see. There we go. If it's rusted, it's for whatever reason I find it easier to break the seal if you tighten it just a little bit. I also recommend getting a very long 3/8 because it will seem like you're doing a whole lot more work than you really are. Because some of these will literally only turn maybe a quarter of a turn at a time, maybe a quarter of a turn at a time. Others will get lucky and can do it with your fingers once you get it loose. They're not always like that though. Like they're very rarely like that, at least where I live. This one is, oh, it's a T. Those tricky people. It's not the best of fitting, so I can't use that. But in this, we can do it manually. T25. The little hot dog mufflers make this top one a lot easier. You can put anything on it. Wrench, screwdriver, mental powers, whatever. This gasket is most definitely going to be garbage, but I don't really care. My main concern is to get it off. So now we need to take off this linkage, which we will do from right here. Or just take it off right here. I don't know what fell. Probably nothing good. Oh, it's a screw on the top end. Okay. Oh my God. Yeah, you need to see this. This tank. See this side? That's a clean side. So we have a little bit of a problem. Do you want the good news or bad news? Good news is, take the tank off. It's relatively easy. Just gonna have to take off a nut down here. The bad news is, with you in the way, I can't see anything. And in most applications, you have full access. But with this one, with this body in the way, okay, it's making it really difficult. There we go. With a little bit of luck, I think we got it. There should be a kill wire as well as a linkage, which there is. There's a spring, and there's this linkage that goes on. So I need to take that off as well as that kill, but that's going to have to be, hopefully, a little easier than I'm thinking it is. That was easy. Oh, there you are, getting in the way again. There we go. And the kill wire is in the front. Should be like a tab to press down. And there is. There we go. Okay, let's see what goodies come out of this. Let's take a look. So the bottom, not that bad. The sides though, not that good. And definitely on the this little chamber for the pickup or for the jet is bad. So usually if this was just like the whole thing, I would put a little bit of, well, a lot of vinegar in there, potentially acid, but once you're having it go acid, it's really not that good. But what I think ended up happening is they put fuel stabilizer in it, kept the bottom nice and clean, but the sides that didn't have any fuel touching just had condensation buildup, including here, and rusted. I don't think it's really necessary to put vinegar. I could be wrong though. I'm going to try it first. I'm going to put a little pressure in there, put a pressure washer with a 15-degree tip, go all the way around 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, including the top. And when it's done, take a propane torch, blow it in there, get it nice and hot, get it nice and dry, and we'll take a look at it. The tank worked out surprisingly good, or well. I speak good, but who knows about this carb? So we're gonna take a look at it. Like I said, this gasket's garbage now. Good thing about pressure washing a tank too is you can save yourself a lot of cleanliness problems. Pressure wash the outside of it. Whatever you do, just take off that little spring though. You don't want to lose it in there. And when you dry it, I want to emphasize dry. Don't burn it. Okay, so we have half, a little under 1. And when you do that, be aware that you are pressure washing a fuel tank that may or may not have a little bit of excess fuel in there. So dispose of that properly. Don't need to have a problem. All of a sudden you like, why is my groundwater taste funny? Granted, you need a whole lot, but still, it's just generally not a good idea. So try to do it as intelligently as possible. I have a fuel container that will have water in it, and maybe like once or twice a year, depending on how much I have, I can take it to a chemical plant that will dispose of it for me. Sometimes it's free, sometimes I have to pay for it, but it's pretty cheap. It's like $10. It's like 5 gallons. And half the time you can get away with just having a lot of them evaporate. You leave your container open. However, you don't want to really do that with, wow, like in a garage. Eventually the fumes potentially could build up. Don't really want that. So this red definitely resembles fuel stabilizer to me. Sorry, man. Just can't. So there's really not a whole lot more to take off on this. And put this in a carb cleaner. I'm going to take a brush and get off all this big crap first. I'll come back. Carb is out and clean. I know I say this every time, but that ultrasonic cleaner does a pretty decent job. I have a new gasket, new diaphragm. The tank itself is looking really good. I did it one more time just to make sure, and I let it dry, put some propane torch action going on in there, and went to look at it again, and it looks very, very respectable. Only places that might have a little bit of a problem was the rim of like the fuel cap, but I forgot to dry this off. But at the same time, that was easy enough to just go in there with like a little bit of a sorry, I'm scraping something off. Cover your ears or take off your headphones. Anyway, that was easy enough to take off with a Dremel with like a little wire brush. I had a friend not too long ago, actually. We were talking and I mentioned the word Dremel, and he basically said that Dremel was one of the most overrated tools a person can ever own. I don't agree with that. I use my Dremel all the time. When I port and polish, I use my Dremel. Are there equivalents that you could use like air tools on? Most definitely. Do I want to? No. I have an extension cord, and I would rather not to hear my air compressor run if I don't have to. If Dremel would make a adapter for like a DeWalt battery, oh, that would be a amazing thing. So you don't have to have these super tight. In fact, don't. Just tight enough where it makes a good, even seal all the way around. Take a little bit of the gasket that then come off of the cleaner. Okay. There's also a little bit of staining going on the end of there. That was some real nasty fuel or something, I don't know. It looked pretty bad, but I took a little carb cleaner and just sprayed it. It came right off. But it is still a tad stained. Okay, now we have the adjustment needle. And the screwdriver. Okay, so that's half and one. Let's do like one, like an eighth. I like to run it a little rich. A little rich is can keep it easier to start when you first get it going. Oh, very rich is going to make it a little hard to get started anyway, so you just want to do a little bit. And then after it warms up to operating temperature, you can then make whatever necessary adjustments. So when finding the gasket, it's almost always one of these. The guide pins there, make sure all the holes line up for the mounting screws, and that's it. So I showed you how to take it off. Literally just going to put everything on reverse. Just make sure that the linkages are free and moving before you really do much of any tightening. I like to put the carb on with no screws, get the linkages connected. I will, however, have to put the 3/8, but those are relatively easy to put in on this particular one, so I'm not too worried about that. But all the other ones, that can be a whole lot of annoyance if you forget one. And just to kind of show you, it's looking pretty nice in there. It's a little pitted. Yeah, it needs to dry out a little bit more, but it's pretty good. Before I go through the aggravation and everything, trying to find a cover, put the fuel on or in, and it is in neutral. Let's go like half throttle, some choke. Let's check the oil. Probably should have done this before I ran it so much, huh? Yeah, there's oil. It's black, but it's oil. Okay, let's see what happens. Oh. Let's try that. Weird. Woo spark. Maybe lost spark. Not seeing anything. I don't know if it's because it's just too bright or what. Maybe the ground wire. Grounding a lot. Interesting. Well, let me take off that ground wire. I found out there was spark, but unfortunately it's when the battery died. So what I don't think is happening is I don't think we're getting fuel. Now there is plenty of fuel in there. Passages are clean. What kind of got me was why it was only one turn out on the adjustment screw. So I did two. That's usually where I like to start. I did disconnect the ground still, so if we do get it going, we're either gonna have to choke it or disconnect the plug. Okay, I now have a filter cover on there and a filter. So when you tune this, you want to do it under these conditions. 1, warm engine. 2, enough fuel to supply it healthily. So you shouldn't be almost on E. And you should have a filter that is recommended. It should not be dirty, it should not be wet, unless it's an oiled filter, in which case make sure it's also oiled. So let's go ahead and, you know what, I'm going to try connecting the kill real quick. Kill is on. Let's try no choke, see what happens. Should be on about 3/4 throttle. Let's try choke. Might have leaned it out a little bit too much. Do another 1/4 turn out. Might just not be warm enough. Let's try it again. Kill works. Actually was a kill too. So another thing, you should also tune it while it's under a load. So it's going to be a little bit difficult on that without dirt, but If you don't have the ability for that, then the next best thing is keep it just a tad on the rich side, just a little. It doesn't have to be a lot. In fact, it shouldn't be a lot. Another helpful tip when you do this, try to do it in the time of year that you'd probably be using it. For instance, in the summertime, I probably won't be using this, so I'm not going to get a very effective tune if I tune it during the summertime. I will kind of expect to have to do a little bit of additional tuning. That's just because, you know, the atmospheric conditions are a lot different. So be aware of that. It is a little chilly today. It's like 70 degrees. It's like the first time that's happened in like 4 months. So we're always getting close to it. So when it's cooler, you probably are going to need a little extra fuel anyway, because cool air is denser than warmer air. So you're going to need more fuel, otherwise it's going to be leaning it out. Denser air means more air, which means more fuel. Keep that in mind. But let's take this off and take a look at the transmission. Knocked off a decent amount of dirt stuck on the tines. Not everything, but it's free now. Let's try no choke. You know what? Don't do this. Do as I say, not as I do, but I'm pretty sure this is only hand tight. Yeah, it could have been a little tighter, but it's not really affecting much of anything. You don't want to obviously run it for a long period of time. Oh yeah, that was a fuel that came out of it. Pretty, isn't it? Half throttle, oh, half choke. Full choke. Still think we have a tuning problem here. seems to be running pretty good. The idle is really low. Let's see if we can't adjust that a little bit. Where is the screw? Of course, it's way in the back. Can't get to it very easily. Well, I'll adjust that later. But other than that, seems to be running pretty good. Like I said, the idle is definitely too low. I wonder if we can do it. Why don't we try? Of course, when I say that, that's when this happens. No, that's just way too low. Okay, I'm gonna adjust that. It's not gonna be a very good tune because the filter's off, but let's see if the idle's good. Always better. That's idle. I think that's pretty good. Okay. I'm gonna put the filter on. It's a lot better. Let's see what happens when I put a load on it. It's in neutral though. Okay, well, that's about it. I need to change the oil. Has new plug, new filter. Carb is done. Tank is done. Also gonna need to change the belt on that. It's pretty nasty. But other than that, that's about it. Seems to be a working machine. I'm happy. These are good oil machines. But other than that, I think we're pretty much done. If you have a Craftsman Rototiller that's been sitting outside for a while and having the same problem, only thing I could think of is potentially in the future, I think this carb might be on its last leg. That's why it's having a hard time tuning. But I think we got to the point where it is, and it also could be the fact that it hasn't ran for such a long time. In fact, it probably would be a good idea to clean the valves a little bit. At the very least, put a little oil on there, let it sit when it's hot. In fact, we could do that now while I'm talking, and just kind of let it soak and simmer. You know, it's really up to you. It does have a decent amount of compression, so I don't suspect that's too much of a problem, but that carb was pretty nasty. So, but it did come back. I will probably not be selling this one. I need to have another one because mine smaller one decided to not work very well, and a cast iron piece broke, and after fixing it many times, after a while you just kind of say to yourself, no more, done, over it. And that's where I am, done and over it. So this is going to be my personal one probably. Okay, well, I'm gonna let that soak in there, change the oil like I said, get it all done. Okay, like you see, subscribe, catch me in the next video. Have a good night.